Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Storm Collectibles 112 Action Series Mortal Kombat Raiden. This is his Mortal Kombat 2 look, and it's not my favorite. I definitely prefer the later versions of Raiden, but I know a lot of you Mortal Kombat guys like the earlier looks, and this might be right up your alley, so I'm not going to weigh in on that part of it at all. We're going to go strictly based on accuracy and execution. That's all this review is going to be based on, not my personal preference for his later designs, because I really don't like this one. But that's okay. It's okay, I understand. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about to the top of where his head would be, roughly about 17.5 centimeters. The hat goes up to 19, give or take. That's going to make him just about, let's say, 7 inches, and then 7.5. Well, 7 inches is definitely too big for the 112 scale. We knew that. Storm has long since left that scale. Here he is up against the new Scorpion, which is a little bit shorter than the older Scorpion. They are almost exactly the same size. So that's good to know for you guys. That figure will be reviewed very soon. And just because I have it laying around and I love putting it on camera, here he is up against NECA's Super Shredder in the 7-inch scale, which they both technically are, but it's still, oh god, that's such a photogenic figure. It just looks so damn good on camera. Anyway, here's Raiden, and before we get into the review, let's do the question of the day. I'm not going to ask you a question about the Mortal Kombat Ninjas because this is a review all about Raiden. So, question is, if you were Raiden, which Mortal Kombat Ninja would be your favorite? No, I'm only kidding. Which version of Raiden is your favorite? For me, it's definitely not this one. I think Mortal Kombat 10 had the best look for Raiden. That's what I'm going to go with. You don't have to agree. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Okay, one last little bit of housekeeping before we get into the review. You'll notice he's not wearing his belt, and that's because as I was looking at the figure, just getting ready for the review, not pulling on anything in particular, his little belt thingy right here, little tiny piece, that tore, and it will not stay in place with that like that. So I'm going to try to get them to replace that, whether it's Storm or Bluefin. That blows big chunks because he doesn't have his belt and it looks not good. So that sucks. Be very careful. That's a tiny piece of very soft plastic, so be very careful with that. Okay, now as far as the aesthetics on this guy go, it's wildly inaccurate. This blue vest of his in MK2 was way more triangular, way angular up over the shoulders, and he had baggy clothes, not big muscular arms. And I get that they were going for the baggy clothes look, but these big bowling ball shoulders that they do on the Storm figures, it's just not the right look for Raiden. I was wondering what was throwing it off so much until I just couldn't quite place it because I hadn't seen this character design in a long time. So I looked it up, and it's the shoulder area for sure. I mean, the baggy pants look fine, but he should look like he's got very baggy shoulders or sleeves with the triangular shaped V-shaped blue vest like coming all the way out. Like his shoulders don't even show in the game really. That's what's throwing it off. That's what's making him look so much like a snowman, is these big bulbous poofy white shoulders. Very nice detail work here though. The pants are sculpted well. There's shading a little bit here and there, so that's all good. The straw hat definitely doesn't look as good as it could. From certain angles it does look like woven. I guess is it straw? I guess it would be straw. Here, I'll show you, because even on the package, where is it? It's so far away. Even on the package you can see here how much better it looks in that like drawing version of it, whereas this doesn't really look like what it's supposed to look like. You see that? Doesn't look bad, but it's just worth pointing out these are very expensive figures, so little things like that stand out. As far as the face goes, I've heard some people say that the faces look terrible, some people say that they look good, and the reason that we're getting that kind of disparity is the faces themselves do look good. They're reasonably accurate, they're fine, but here's the downside. Raiden almost always had that Magneto thing going on, back then anyway, where the top half of his face was just black and he had glowing eyes showing through. We don't have that here, we just have regular faces. And so that does take away from what people are remembering, whether they can place it or not. It definitely looks different. The other thing is, the faces are technically sculpted well, but the faces are very big on the head. They cover the entire front of the head, whereas in reality, there's a whole lot of cranium that would normally be up there. So it's making the face look kind of strange because it's very, very big on the head. And that also, aside from just being recognizable to your brain, even if you can't quite place what the issue is, that also pushes the head higher up in the hat, and therefore you can't see the top half of his face without tilting the hat back, which definitely makes him look dorky as hell. So that little weird issue with the head is definitely throwing people off, I think. Technically, the faces are sculpted well. They're just too big on the head itself, and that's the thing. But otherwise, it does look pretty good. To me, the faces definitely throw it off, and the shoulder thing is way more egregious than that. That is not a good situation. If I can find a good reference image, I'll put it on there, but having the blue go straight here and not hide the shoulders, and the shoulders being so broad and apparently full rather than just poofy clothes, throws it off a little bit. So I'm going to only give this guy like a 6.5 out of 10 for the aesthetic. It does not look as good as it should. Plus, mine doesn't look good with the belt broken, and my belt is broken, so that sucks. Now, as far as accessories go, this guy really does shine in the accessory department. We have 3 different heads. We have the neutral head that comes on him in the package, the angry head where he's showing his teeth, and then the angry head where he's yelling, and those are all nice sculpts, just with big faces on relatively small heads. We also get a bunch of hands. We have 2 fist hands that come on him in the package. We have 2 hands with 2 fingers coming forward, 2 karate chop hands, and then 2 different sets of style pose hands. And then we have a set of hands with lightning fingers. And lightning fingers are always cool, and these are done exceptionally well. The paint part for the hand could be a little bit better, but it is painted on top of translucent plastic, so light will shine through a little bit unless you, well, you might. If you have a really strong light, you might see some light in the fingertips. But the lightning itself is done really nicely. And then we have 2 lightning effects that just go in one of the sets of open hands. That's really cool. To go with that, we have the head that has been exploded, so that's really nice. And then we have 2 more lightning effects. And all of the lightning effects are just really great. That's a good spread of accessories. I'm very pleased. Only downside being that the faces and heads are kind of weird, but otherwise it's really, really good. So I'm going to give the accessories a 9 out of 10. Very nice array of accessories for sure. We're going to take his hat off, which you could count as an accessory, but I wouldn't because he has no neck, no traps, very big shoulders, and a little peanut head, so it's going to look a little bit strange. Don't do it. Alright, now as far as articulation goes, we have the double ball peg for the neck, and they have a very soft material in here now, softer than before, so you can lean that head around way better than we used to be able to do, and that is very nicely done. You don't get too much movement on that top ball peg. The way they've started to seat them very far up into the head does limit it quite a bit, but you're going to get plenty of range just rotating it on that one and leaning everywhere else. So that's nice, and the hat will make it not look as goofy. Now that we've shown you that, let's go ahead and put it back on. You can lean him around, and it'll be okay. Now you can put him in a pose like that and kind of hide the face, and it'll help to hide some of the anatomical issues, if I can speak. That would be good. So yeah, you can make this figure look fine, but we have to go over the details on their own, unfortunately, so that's why we get sometimes lower ratings on a figure in a review than you might experience in your day-to-day life. That's what the reviews are for, though. You can take the information and then do with it what you will. Alright, for the shoulders, we have the ball peg that connects the arm to the torso, lets that move around just fine in there, and then as far as the hinge goes, we can get the arm up better than horizontal, so that is awesome. Very nicely done. Full rotation. Also, his joints are buttery smooth, or as some might say, creamy. They are very, very nice. This takes me back to when Ryu very first came out, or even the first Mortal Kombat ninjas, back when the things were smooth. We didn't have squeaking, we didn't have loose joint issues. It's so smooth right now. It's nice. It's not loose, it's just smooth. It's very, very good. We do have a bicep swivel in here. Not going to get a ton of range out of that. The way it's sculpted, you just can't move it very much, so that's a bummer. Double jointed elbow gives you better than 90 degrees, but not by a ton, so be aware of that. Then we have a ball hinge for the wrist. That should allow you to move it just fine. Torso, I'm guessing, is the same as normal. Let's see if that's the case. So we should have a diaphragm joint up here, double ball peg, and another ball peg at the bottom. Of course, we have all of this clothing going on, and I know some people have decided to cut this off so they could have an MK1 Raiden. You can do that. Or maybe you can stretch it and risk tearing it. That's up to you. It's technically just the white outfit under there, but as you'll see, hopefully you can see that, where the blue plastic has been riding on this white, there's a lot of transfer, so it's not going to look great. I would just leave it like this and wait for a white version. Alright, so anyway, diaphragm joint with that blue. If you hold it under the blue, you should be able to move Yeah, it's all in there. The blue has to bunch up a lot, and you kind of have to deal with that. So I don't think you're going to be able to use the upper joint that much, but it does technically work, and it technically has all the range. It's just how much this blue piece is going to be holding it up. So you can see it does have it in there. And then we have another ball peg down here at the waist, which is probably what you're going to use the most because the blue doesn't impede that very much. So it's in there. It's a little tricky and finicky, but you'll be able to use it enough, I think. It's not like he needs to be doing sit-ups or burpees or anything like that. So I think you'll be okay posing him up there. How do the hips work? Well, I already know they work very nicely. Let me show you now. They are a little squeaky and tight, but that's on this type of joint, it really shouldn't be that much of an issue. If it was a ball peg, I'd be more concerned. Like this, you should be okay with slightly tight hips without breakage. I haven't had any problems, and I doubt you will. But as you can see, we almost have full-on splits there, so that's really, really nicely done. And then we can bring the leg pretty far forward and pretty far back, almost all the way, both ways. And we have some bunching, but you can account for that as you pose it. Okay, so this one, I guess I should have mentioned that. This one does connect to the crotch piece fairly low, so the bunching is not something you can do much with right there, but it shouldn't really get in the way. Like, you should still be okay. That's fine. So yeah, very nice hips, good range there. You do have thigh swivels. Oh, and another thing I like is they didn't give him really wide hips. They do tend to do that sometimes. His hips are nice and narrow, so that's pretty good. As for the knees, very good range. No problem at all there. As far as baggy pants go, they did a pretty good job with those knees. A lot of companies struggle with that. Their choice is definitely an acceptable one. For the ankle, goes all the way back and pretty far forward too. That's good. And we get a decent ankle rocker. No swivel anywhere in there though, so it does come off at a little bit of an angle, but it should be usable. And then the toe hinge is as useless as most toe hinges are, but it is there and it's not terrible. So articulation on this guy is really not bad. They did a good job. Everything works nicely except for the bicep swivel, really, and only the cumbersome nature of his clothing has restricted his torso. Can't really fault Storm for that, but it is worth being aware of, which you are now, so that's okay. I'm going to give it an 8. I like the hips a lot. The legs all around work really nicely. The shoulders work well. The head moves nicely. Yeah, it's definitely a nice figure as far as articulation engineering goes. So, final verdict. Oh, also be careful. Hopefully you don't tear this off. Like, I didn't actually pull on this or do anything with this. I was moving around the torso and it was enough. Maybe whoever put it on tore it mostly, like tore it a little bit, and then just me moving it, popped it. You can see it's just so tiny. So I guess I just have my bad luck as usual, but be aware that that is on there. You can technically swivel this part, by the way, the knot part, but that goes on like, for those of you who aren't familiar with the figure already, oh my goodness, something like that. You get the idea. So it definitely makes the figure look nicer to have that on there, but mine doesn't now. So anyway, I gave you the rating for the articulation. Final verdict on this guy. These are painted so nicely. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it does definitely have the issues that I thought it was going to have. So you can hide the face a little bit. Really, those shoulders just throw it off so much for me. Raiden is not supposed to have giant bowling ball shoulders. Throws it off, but it's still a good figure as far as articulation goes. I think you're going to be able to pose it nicely. You'll probably be able to hide the issues, at least to some extent. 7. I'm going to give it a 7. It's still problematic. Your mileage may vary. You'll probably be able to enjoy it more than a 7, but objectively on paper, there are still some flaws that definitely should have been rectified. So that's my verdict. You guys can let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. If you liked the video, though, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should click subscribe and turn on the bell and turn on the notifications and do the things in the stuff. And you should probably come back, because I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel. Lots of stuff for you to watch all the time. Plenty of content, so come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.